A preschool boy I know was pleading to eat the dessert his mom had asked for as well. Even the little grandson sitting in front of me seems to be about the same age as that boy. With a kid's meal in front of him, he said, "I wanted to feed mom," as his stomach made noises signaling hunger. My name is Kathy. I'm 65 years old. My husband, George, of the same age, is a private taxi driver, and I work in a company cafeteria. Currently, it's just the two of us living together, but we used to live with our only daughter, Lisa. Lisa was a kind-hearted girl, albeit a bit shy and quiet, and seemed to have no prospects of romance even as she approached 30. During that time, when my husband was working as a limousine driver, Lisa delivered something he had forgotten to a regular customer. A company executive's son, who took a liking to her. Their relationship progressed smoothly from dating to engagement and then to marriage, and to our surprise, Lisa married into a very wealthy family. Lisa's husband, Daniel, was a handsome man with a high income, education, and stature, the so-called triple high. And was on the fast track in his career without being arrogant about it. Moreover, he was kind enough to help us out just as we were retiring. He provided financial support for my husband to start his own taxi business and arranged a job for me in the cafeteria of a company he knew. We really couldn't thank our son-in-law enough. About a year after their marriage, Lisa gave birth to a lovely boy, Sky. The baby I saw in the hospital was very healthy and cute, and Lisa seemed very happy, which enveloped us in joy. That was the last time I saw my daughter and grandson. Despite attempting to contact them several times, the replies were scarce, probably due to the busy new parenting life. And according to a message from my son-in-law, it's a daily struggle, so please wait until we're settled. Before we knew it, years had passed without a chance to meet due to an epidemic outbreak. Though I felt lonely, I tried not to worry, taking no news as good news. I wonder if we'll be able to meet this New Year's. Today is my day off. I was arranging last year's Christmas cards on the table, checking the list and names of people to send them to. I sighed. Knowing how busy my taxi driver husband gets around the holidays, my daughter and her family never visit. You might think we should just visit them, but with the request to please wait, we couldn't just barge in. The only time we get to see our daughter and grandson is through the yearly Christmas card. The cards, always taken at a photo studio, offered a rare glimpse of their faces, but it was slightly frustrating to see them in such tense, formal expressions and attire. I wish I could see what you two look like in your daily lives. Last year's Christmas card was the same as usual. Compared to the Christmas cards from colleagues and friends featuring children with beaming smiles. It can't be helped. Other families are other families, and ours is ours. My husband, who had been working the night shift, would be home in about an hour. He requested a hot soup for today's cold snowy weather, so it's about time to start preparing lunch. Just as I was about to put away the Christmas cards and roll up my sleeves, the doorbell rang. I hadn't ordered anything or made plans to meet anyone. I wonder what it could be. With a question mark in my head, I cautiously opened the door, and there, in the falling snow, stood my daughter, Lisa, looking somewhat haggard. And her son, Sky, who had grown much taller. Side by side. It's been a while, Mom. What's the matter all of a sudden? You should have told me you were coming. Well, come in, it's cold out. I invited Lisa and Sky in and closed the front door. Their shoulders were dotted with many small drops of water. As I handed them towels and urged them inside, that's when it happened. Lisa suddenly started to cry. Hey, why are you crying? Please, Mom. I need you to take care of Sky for a while. I let out a foolish sound, caught off guard by the unexpected request. Upon further inquiry, it seems that my son-in-law, who is working from home, finds it distracting to have a small child around and wants us to take care of the child until his next office day. Don't talk as if Sky is to blame. I accidentally raised my voice and quickly looked at Sky. It's unclear whether he heard or not, as he stands motionless, eyes cast down. I made Lisa lift her face and continued in a hushed tone. Besides, we're not prepared for this sudden request. Doesn't he go to kindergarten? We're taking him out of kindergarten for future entrance exams. Anyway, please take care of him without asking anything. I have to go back to my husband, but I promise to come back for him. Please. I beg you. Lisa gripped my shoulder painfully. To see her this desperate. Feeling uneasy about Lisa's demeanor, yet seeing how earnestly she pleaded, I decided to take in Sky. Thank you, Mom. My daughter's face brightened instantly, and she hugged Sky, relieved. I'll come to pick you up once things settle down. Stay here with Grandma and Grandpa until then, okay? Don't worry. They are both very kind people. After reassuring her son, Lisa left. Now alone with Sky, I knelt down to meet his eye level. I asked him cheerfully and with a smile. It's been a while, Sky. You've grown so much. How old are you now? I'm 4 years old. Sky answered in a small, expressionless voice. Oh dear, he must be nervous. It can't be helped, we haven't seen each other since he was a baby. Come on, it's cold in the entrance. Come in. Yes. Sky entered the living room, looking uneasy. Sit anywhere. I'll make something warm. How about some hot milk? Yes, please don't trouble yourself. Such formal language again. I tilted my head at his adult-like expressions. While warming the milk in the microwave, I prepared a tea bag in my mug and poured hot water. Returning to the living room with 2 mugs in hand, I couldn't believe my eyes. Sky was sitting on the floor, with his back rounded. Hey, the floor must be cold. Come on, the sofa is free. This is your mom's childhood home, so it's your home too. Make yourself comfortable, okay? As I handed him the hot milk, he said, "Thank you very much," and hesitantly sat down, barely touching the sofa with half of his bottom. I wondered how to make him feel more at ease. Looking around, my eyes landed on the backpack at his feet. Did you bring any change of clothes? Can we check what's inside the backpack together? Maybe there's a toy or something he likes inside. It could be a conversation starter. When I asked with a smile, Sky handed me the backpack. Does that mean I can look inside? Inside the backpack were a few changes of clothes and underwear. Valuable items such as a health insurance card and a mother-child health booklet were also packed. There wasn't a single toy, instead, there was a pencil case and 3 preschool workbooks. Wow, you're working hard on your studies, aren't you? Maybe his adult-like manner of speaking is also for entrance exams. Sky bit his lip and looked down at my exclamation. To someone like me, who has never dealt with or been through elementary school entrance exams, being able to write alphabet seems more than enough for a child this age, but his reaction suggests otherwise. I smiled ruefully at the indescribable sadness. As I reached out to pat his head, he visibly flinched, startling me. Eh? Seeing Sky turn his face away and shrink his body as if to protect his head, I retracted my extended hand. Sorry, it must have been startling to suddenly have someone try to touch your head. I couldn't help but force a polite smile. Sky cautiously looked up at me and whispered in a small voice, "I'm sorry. I should be the one apologizing for startling you. It looks like you got caught in the snow, so let's warm up with warm foods. I will start making something for lunch now. Feel free to do as you like." As Sky slowly stood up and nodded silently, he immediately started working intently on his workbooks the moment I stepped away. I frowned at the sight. What kind of life have Lisa and Sky been leading? The way he speaks, the contents of his backpack, his behavior, it's all so unsettling. Is this the pressure of entrance exams? Regardless, it's unbearable to let him stay in such a tense state all the time. Even though it's unexpected, I get to live with my adorable grandson for a while. I'd love to see his innocent smile. I decided to change the lunch menu on the spot. I fried the shrimp I had bought, sautéed the chicken and onions, and flavored them with ketchup. I put cheese on the meatballs. The carrots were made into a sweet glaze. I almost finished cooking. I stopped what I was doing and called out to Sky. "Sky, lunch is almost ready. Go take a shower before lunch." But my workbooks. What are you talking about? Warming up comes first. I caught myself mid-sentence. Right, can you take a shower by yourself? Can you wash your hair and body? If it's difficult, we might have to wait for Grandpa to come back. He might resist taking a shower with me. Just as I was pondering, Sky shook his head vigorously. I can. Usually take a shower alone. He dropped the polite language. I couldn't help but soften my expression at this unexpected change. Struggling to contain my smirk, I gently told Sky. That's good then. I still have kitchen duties, so please take a shower alone. Take your time and warm up. I led him to the changing area. And I handed him a towel. I could hear the shower running. He seems to be doing fine. Relieved, I returned to the living room to resume my kitchen work. Dishes I hadn't made in years began to line up on the kitchen countertop. As I was arranging the completed dishes on the biggest plate in the house, Sky entered the living room with pattering footsteps. Just as I was about to tell him that lunch was almost ready, the sound of the front door opening echoed. Soon after, my husband's voice rang out in surprise. Whose shoes are these? Sky's shoulders jolted in shock. Hey, there are small shoes at the entrance. Who's this child? My husband, entering the living room, widened his eyes in astonishment. Welcome back. This is Sky. He's 4 years old now. He's grown a lot, hasn't he? They came by today to ask if we could look after him for a while. I gently nudged Sky's back. He looked nervous. Good evening. Sky, is it? You've grown so much. Remember me? I'm your grandpa. Seeing my husband's beaming smile, Sky glanced at me quietly. I also smiled warmly. Come on, you must be cold too. Please go take a shower. Should Grandpa join you in a shower, Sky? Take a good look. Sky has already finished taking a shower. Besides, you're always taking a shower so quickly. After I hurried my husband off, Sky stared at us with a bewildered expression. Then, as if relieved, he let out a soft smile. There you go. When he smiles, he's just like any boy his age, isn't he? I seated Sky at the table and placed a one-plate lunch and soup in front of him, brightening his expression instantly. It's Grandma's special kids meal. Please enjoy. I used my cafeteria-honed skills to create an original kids meal. While Sky was in a shower, I cooked everything. He was about to take a bite with his fork when his hand suddenly stopped, as if he realized something. Then, furrowing his brows, he looked up at me with a question. But I haven't finished my workbooks yet, and I haven't gotten a perfect score. I was at a loss for words, not understanding the meaning behind Sky's words. Soon after, my husband came out, drying his hair. Is that a kid's meal? Looks delicious. Aren't you going to eat? Yes. Studying is important, but it's not good for children to be hungry. Encouraged by my husband's words, I gently spoke, and Sky slowly brought a meatball to his mouth with his fork, murmuring, delicious. As if relieved. Feeling relieved myself, my husband whispered to me from behind. You haven't hurt yourself or anything, have you? Excuse me? What an odd question to ask out of the blue. As you can see, I'm perfectly fine. Not even a scratch on me. After all, if I had injured my hands or fingers, it would interfere with my work, so I'm always very careful. No, ha ha ha. That's good then. Puzzled by my husband's forced laugh, I began preparing his portion of the meal. As the three of us sat down to eat, my grandson nibbled hesitantly at his food. If it's too much, you don't have to force yourself, okay? It's not that. If we eat slowly, even a little bit can make you full. I always share with Mom like this. I know how it works. I want to give some of this to Mom because it's delicious. Share with Mom. As I struggled to comprehend Sky's words, my husband suddenly stood up and left the room. Where are you going? I could hear him talking to someone in the distance. After a while, he returned, clutching his cell phone. He beckoned me to a corner of the room. What's going on? I called Lisa's house. That's unusual. My husband hardly ever calls our daughter. I called the landline. It was good she picked up. What does he mean? Before I could ask for clarification, my husband continued with a serious look. Listen. Don't raise your voice about what's going to happen next. Stay calm, as usual. I didn't understand what he meant. Despite never having seen such intensity from my husband before, a cold sweat ran down my back. Smiling gently, my husband knelt beside Sky and asked softly, "Sky, do you love your mom?" Sky nodded slightly. "And do you love your dad?" As soon as that question was asked, Sky bit his lip, looked down, and started to tremble. "Sky." As I rushed over, Sky looked up at me as if clinging for support. "I understand. I'm sorry, Sky. Your grandparents are here for you and your mom, okay? It's going to be all right. I just need to lift your shirt a bit." My husband gently lifted my Sky's shirt. The sight of numerous painful marks scattered across his soft skin made me swallow a scream that was about to escape. There were many bruises and scratch marks. And there were patches of blue and red bruises. My husband let out a quiet sigh, then hugged Sky, who was stiff with fear, and asked, "Was it your dad?" Without saying a word or nodding, Sky just sniffled and let big tears roll down his cheeks. I took that as his answer. I couldn't believe that something like this was happening. The reality was too hard to grasp. "We need to hurry, let's go," my husband said, looking determined. As I looked up, my husband was already putting on his jacket, grabbing his wallet and car keys. Get last year's Christmas card. We're going to Lisa's place." Before I knew it, my husband was in the car. Remember, it's the same with a taxi. If you go head-to-head with a dangerous customer in a private room, you'll lose. "Here's the plan," my husband said. As he checked the address and map, he gave me directions on what to do. The issue was what to do with Sky. Considering the place, I was debating whether to have Sky stay home alone. But then Sky took the initiative to get into the car himself. "I'm going to Mom's place," he said. Determination was clear in his eyes. He truly is an experienced driver. Once my husband checks the address on the New Year's card, he drives smoothly without even needing to use the GPS. Throughout the ride, Sky kept his fists clenched tightly. It seems the trash in the changing room raised my husband's suspicions. He found it odd to see a large number of band-aids discarded and became convinced something was wrong after observing Sky's behavior. When he called our daughter, she sounded unsettled and quickly hung up, claiming she was busy. It's strange, isn't it? Even though we are his grandparents, we're practically strangers to each other. And it's the first day we're taking care of him. Normally, if I call, wouldn't you expect some concern for her child, asking if something happened? From the behavior at the time of drop-off, it seemed like Sky didn't fear my daughter, and given her demeanor, it didn't seem like she was averse to her child to the point of leaving him with us. The drive to our house, where my daughter, who doesn't have a driver's license, arrived after traveling through the cold snowy weather by train and bus, would take about an hour. Despite being virtually strangers, she made the trip. It gave me a sense of how isolated my daughter must be feeling. At the same time, I shuddered when I thought of my daughter's seemingly kind husband. To do such a thing to such a small child. Arriving at my daughter's house for the first time, it seemed twice as big as ours, with a grand gate that seemed almost to reject us. When Sky approached the gate and waved his hand near the sensor, the gate slowly opened. The front door was unlocked. It felt like I caught a glimpse of my daughter's true feelings, which she hadn't expressed in words. "Where have you taken our heir?" A sharp pain struck my cheek. "I am Lisa. The one raging in front of me is my husband, Daniel." He was always somewhat domineering, but his personality seemed to change completely after our son's 3-year-old checkup, where we were told his development was slow. It was because of my poor parenting. I was scolded for enrolling him in a mediocre kindergarten, and as a result of my husband's arrangements, our son was pulled out of preschool and forced into homeschooling. However, as our son failed to meet his expectations, my husband's irritation grew, and he began to hurl terrible words at him. My intervention in his excessive discipline, which went beyond normal upbringing, must have been the last straw for him. He declared he would retrain me and our son, and took away my cell phone. Then, my husband escalated to physical violence, and my son and I began to live in fear of him. When we heard remote work was starting, we were terrified. Even now, with my husband going out to work, our days are suffocating, let alone having him at home all day. I took the chance when my husband was out to secretly leave the house and take my son to the place where I felt safest. I said you had an important meeting, so I thought it would be best not to disturb you and left him with someone I know. I recited the excuse I had prepared. It seemed my husband didn't notice our son was missing until much later. And despite being in the middle of remote work, he went out of his way to turn off the camera and microphone to scold me. I could see the ongoing meeting on the screen behind him, muted because he was wearing headphones. As if being the lowest as a wife and mother wasn't enough, you go and do as you please. That's why he doesn't grow up. Because you coddle him like that. My husband's arm moved with force. I braced for the impending pain, and just then, a shadow fell over my vision. Lisa is the best, and Sky is growing up just fine. It was my father who stood there. My father caught my husband's hand, and with the skill of karate, he moved behind him. He obscured the computer with his body. In the next moment, he had expertly immobilized my husband with just one hand. Ouch. Why are you here? Before that, how about you explain your recent remarks towards Lisa and those painful marks on Sky's body? It all happened so fast, I couldn't look away. My father, who had dealt with various customers alone over the years, practiced self-defense and held a black belt in karate. For my husband, who had grown sedentary from desk work, there was no contest. After a moment of fluster, my husband adopted a calm, outwardly friendly demeanor. This is our issue. Please don't interfere in our family matters. Besides, you can see I'm in the middle of work. Let me go. Without showing any remorse, he glanced at me and our son, who had rushed over, and gave us a chilling smile. Hey, Lisa, you should also tell them. It's not right to involve your parents in our household matters, right? Being physically and mentally abused, sometimes starved or locked in a cold room, we were conditioned to obey my husband's commands. Dad, let him go. My involuntary plea made my father slowly release his grip. My mother, who had silently entered at some point, stood next to my father, arms crossed. With a disdainfully polite gesture, my husband opened the door, urging my parents to leave. Well, we should clear up this misunderstanding, but let's save that for another time. You wouldn't want to lose your job over today's events, right? Please keep this to yourselves and leave. Don't underestimate us. Our jobs and everything else come second to Lisa and Sky. You think we'd just go back quietly after seeing our Sky like this and after how you treated Lisa? My mother took out her cell phone and tapped the screen, playing back the harsh words my husband had hurled at me earlier. We've also taken photos of the Sky's injuries. We'll be taking these as evidence to the police. The color drained from my husband's face at my mother's words. Police? Don't be so dramatic. It's just discipline. Calling it discipline to belittle your wife's humanity, to starve her, to inflict bruises on a 4-year-old until his skin is unrecognizable? Well, that's... I mean... He said he wanted to make a kid's meal for his mom. Despite living in such a grand house, are you not feeding your own family properly? Bombarded with questions from my parents, my husband was at a loss for words. This was my chance. Gathering my courage, I spoke up. We can't keep up with your methods anymore. Please, let's get a divorce. Huh? My body flinched reflexively at my husband's response. I had brought up divorce once before, but was immediately shut down without discussion. The reason was that it would look bad. Moreover, he insisted that he would take custody of our son because he's the heir, and even threatened to take away my elderly parents' jobs, forcing me to give up. But now, I saw an opportunity. Please. If you agree to a divorce and free me and Sky from you, we won't go to the police. Don't be ridiculous. Who do you think you're talking to? At my husband's shout, my son squeezed his eyes shut tightly. Always talking back. Do you have any idea what would happen to my reputation at work as a family man if we got divorced? I've given you a good home. Nice clothes, provided jobs for your retired parents, and I'm setting our child on the path to success. You should be grateful, not complaining. Breathless from his rant, my father muttered expressionlessly. Thanks for showing your true colors. Now everyone knows what you're really like. Didn't you notice? When our man put you in a hold, he turned on your computer's microphone and camera. Panicking, my husband rushed to the computer. In his haste, the earphone cord got caught on his foot and unplugged from the computer. Voices from the other side of the monitor began to be audible. Work discussions were forgotten by everyone. This isn't some kind of prank, is it? Isn't this bad? Well, this is. My husband tried to address the camera with a forced smile, but it was too late. One by one, people left the call until the screen went dark, leaving my husband standing in stunned silence. His phone then vibrated. Glancing at the screen, he snatched up the phone. Hello? No, that was just a misunderstanding. No, I mean, that's not it. It was probably his boss on the line. Leaving my desperately explaining husband behind, I headed to the entrance with my son and got into my father's car. In the silence, I whispered to the two sitting in front. Thank you. Welcome back, Lisa. Hearing her name called, my daughter sniffled. Even after living for 65 years, this was my first time witnessing such a turbulent scene. But the presence of my adorable sleeping children in the back seat filled me with affection. We were able to claim alimony and a portion of the assets, and because of the terrible treatment we had endured, we also received compensation. Through the lawyer, we learned about my son-in-law's fate. The meeting that day had not only colleagues but also executives who could influence future career paths. And his exposed true nature had seemingly closed the doors to advancement. Of course, this incident reached the ears of his father, a company executive, who decided to keep him at the company out of pity but cut off all parental ties, saying this was the end of their relationship. Moreover, rumors can be frightening. And tales like he mistreated his wife and child and was taken away by the police and he supposedly has a prior arrest record began to circulate, marking him as a dangerous individual. Though he has no place in the company, he must continue working there to pay a significant amount to my daughter and grandson, making his work environment extremely uncomfortable. Coincidentally, my daughter also started working there. Laughing about gaining weight from the delicious staff meals, she seemed to have regained her spirits. Recently, she was thrilled to receive a bonus for a healthy menu she devised that became a hit with female customers. Sky, whose injuries had healed, transferred to a local public kindergarten. With fewer children, he received more attentive care, and we were amazed at how quickly he picked up new skills. Although not very fond of studying, he enjoyed crafts and spent his free time creating art from scrap materials. Our home has become a little museum thanks to his creations. And still, on my days off, I make kids' meals. Sky now finishes his portion and even asks for seconds, increasing both the effort and quantity required. But the joy far outweighs the trouble. I also play outside with him. He now likes to play at a park. Look, Grandma. He seems so fun playing outside freely now.